Hola and welcome to Oye Cinema Club. My name is Marina, aka Dignified Couch Potato, and tonight we are going to be discussing the 2024 film Challengers. I chose this movie because I recently went to go see it, and I was like, one, I want to watch this again, and two, I want to talk about this weird movie with my buddies. So here we are. I'm not alone. With me tonight is Steve Des, Jason Eccles, and Don Dino. Yeah, I'm really excited about diving into it. I liked it, but I'm not gonna lie, it's weird. So sorry in advance if it was weird to you guys. But I guess we'll just jump into first impressions. Jason.
Hey. So I saw this movie actually just very recently, within like the last, I don't know, 6 weeks. So I didn't even watch it again. I was like, because it's pretty fresh. Um, I like this movie a lot, actually. Honestly, this is probably one of the better movies of the year for me. Which I didn't expect when I started watching this thing. I think I only watched it because it was like, new on streaming or whatever. So I popped it on and terrific. I mean, Zendaya, terrific. The other two guys, terrific. The acting's great. The screenplay, excuse me, is on point. Um, it's just a fantastic love triangle in this thing, and and the characters are so complex and so well written and so human, and the passage of time and like the passage of like what they were and what they became, and all that's wonderful, man. It's such good storytelling with all the flashbacks and all that jazz. Like and the way that the thing is shot and sort of edited with like this weird sort of like, I don't know. It's just terrific. The transitions and the music and what was at stake in this thing for these people. I just was drawn right in and I was invested right in. Even though like I'm not like a huge tennis fan per se, I was interested in the sport of it. Like, dare I say, this might be a top sports movie for me all time. Like, this is a really good movie, man. And maybe I think that because I wasn't expecting anything, but like this thing is definitely worth more than one watch, in my opinion. But those were my initial thoughts.
Awesome. Dino.
Wow, Jason. I don't remember a time that we've been so opposite. I did not like this. I am like first off, time jumps. Like not only you said flashbacks. It wasn't just flashbacks. It was flash forward, then to present, then flash. Like it started 2019, then it said uh 18 years ago, then it said 3 years later, then it went back to regular time in 2019, then it went 12 years later, then it went 5 years later, then and it kept jumping back and forth like that. And I think the fact that they had to also put the time jumps written makes it that it was lazy. I know I'm being very harsh. I'm being very harsh, but it's because I expect more from everyone involved in this, because the cinematography, the music, like you said, the acting was there. But the fact that they were jumping like this, and then we already knew Zendaya was with the one guy. I already forgot their names, but the fact that we already knew that they were together, we already knew that they had a kids, we already knew that, kind of took all the weight of it. Like for me, just time jump wise, I would have liked a linear. It doesn't have to be completely linear, but knowing that she had chosen that one guy and it was because of this and all that. And at the very beginning, they already talked about her having her career cut short because of an injury. And I just didn't care. Like, it was just like, come on, man. Like, I was so frustrated the whole time. I'm like, I've seen this movie. They're very Itu Mama También moments in it. It's like, I've seen these movies. It's one of these things where it's like so much potential. and I know how hard it is, and I know the cinematography, and they waited to the very end to do like, ooh, funky, we got a GoPro finally. Let's test out this GoPro we just got. Let's put it like if you had a dog, you would put the GoPro on your dog to then see what it was. They're like, let's put a GoPro on a tennis ball and see what it does. It's like great. Just just it was just so frustrating. And for like a top sports movie, get out of here. Battle of the Sexes. If you want to do tennis, we got so many other. I mean, Big Lebowski, better sports movie than this. Golly, I'm so sorry. I'm normally not this opinionated of like when I
Really?
dis when I dislike something. When I dislike something, I don't think I'm this much of a Grinch. Oh, maybe because Christmas just passed by. But anyway, that's kind of it. First
Okay.
impression, I don't need it to see this movie ever again.
That's supposed to be a final thought, but I'll take it. Let's just Steve. I'm scared, but let's go.
Hey, hey, hey. So it's my turn. So we got Jason loving this movie so much that he didn't need to watch it a second time because he loved it so much that first time. No reason for a rewatch for him. It was so fresh. And then we got Dino hating the movie. I'm going to play middle today. So I'm gonna say there's a lot of elements of the movie that I enjoy and like, and there's a lot of elements of the movie that I very much disliked. A lot of things make sense now because once I finished the film, I saw that the producer name was Zendaya. So make some sense of certain things, of certain choices that were taken here. I'm pretty sure she for sure got this role because of course she's perfect for the role and all that stuff and how she played it and everything, and she was the pretty much the focus of the film. One thing I highly disliked, I watched this film with headphones on, was and I maybe she made the song, maybe I don't know, but there was this techno song playing throughout the entire movie that I understand that tennis is boring and you need to make it fun and appealing. And you also have to appeal to Zendaya fans that come from Euphoria. So you got to make it a little Euphoria like and have slow motion and like all these themes and topics and stuff. Um, but yeah, that techno music really took me out. There was like one song that was like a Spanish bossa nova that I really enjoy, especially because I'm in Rio right now. But besides that, the score, I really think they should have done a better job, in my opinion, and especially that overwhelming techno song they played throughout. It took me a little while to get into the film because in the beginning it was just like, okay, it's tennis. And just like Dino, I was having issues later in the movie. In the beginning, not so much, but later in the movie, I was having a little issue following the time frame of it all because there were flashbacks, there were flash forwards, time jumps, all kinds of things. That yeah, I was only I guess like the only thing that kept my focus was mainly um, like their hair because I was like, okay, if they have longer hair, they're younger, and now like if they have shorter hair, now they're okay. So and that's how I kept up, and then I also thought this movie, personally, in my opinion, could have been told better. 4 and 40, uh, maybe hour and 35. I understand why you want to. I understand why you want to stretch it to two, but it's just yeah. I just felt like there were certain exposition things that were like, oh, remember what happened in Atlanta and like stuff like that. Uh, that I don't know. It could have been. I just feel like there were a lot of unnecessary scenes, and I understand that you have to like sell the tennis and all that stuff, and you gotta you paid a lot to be in that particular court and everything, and to film all that. But I don't know. I just felt like there were too many repetitive shots of that. A lot of slow motion that I'm like, yo, this slow motion lasting like 3 minutes. But acting wise was really good. I think everybody did a really great job acting wise. Um, and yeah, and especially in the beginning, keeping my intrigue of like what's gonna be the actual theme of the movie. Is it gonna be like I don't know, are these two guys like in love with each other? Oh, they're in love with the same girl. Is this like a poor rich poor versus rich type of story, like those things of like finding out what were the actual themes of it all. That's what kept me intrigued. Uh, but yeah, and I have other thoughts, but I guess I'll discuss it later with you guys when we discuss the movie. But that's my first impression.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I feel like I'm Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you know. Too hot, too cold, just right. So yeah, so I'll jump into my first impression. So I have like a really wild roller coaster with this because I remember the preview like popped up on my Facebook like end of 2023. And I was just like, whoa, this is intense. Like, what's this going to be about? But then I saw another preview closer to when the movie came out. And I was like, oh, it's just like kind of, I'm like, is this just going to be like weirdly overly sexual and not even about tennis? Which for me, I know everyone has different opinions. It was my favorite sport as a kid. I loved watching it. I loved like following different celebrities. To me, it was one of the first like one of those. I loved like Serena and Venus, and like it just like really loved like I loved tennis. I played a little bit in school, so for me, and I think the combination of me having like an attention disorder plus loving tennis, to me, even though I've heard some harsh opinions on how the direction and like the filming and the time jumps were, to me it was directed like a tennis match, like with how it went back and forth and back and forth. Everything about it that could be annoying was so intriguing to me because I felt like the entire movie was watching tennis. It was just like I did have a couple moments where I didn't understand that we were in that certain time, but overall I absolutely was obsessed with like keeping up with the ball basically throughout the whole movie. um I did. I think Steve kind of touched on like kind of figuring out what is going on. I thought it would be more straightforward, like two guys liking one girl. I didn't realize it was gonna be so many layers and like some like tones of like sexuality. Like, is Zendaya's character, is she asexual? Are they bisexual? Like, just like I didn't realize it would get into that. And why I appreciated it, not knowing what was going on the first time I watched it, was just like, okay, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for this kind of movie. But watching it the second time, knowing what was going on, I was able to appreciate it more and like actually like watch the characters and like see like how much the relationships meant to them on each layer. I really enjoyed it. Even the second time around, like with the shock value being gone, I still was like I was watching tennis. Like I couldn't keep my eye off of like everything that was going on and all the drama. But yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, for me, it's just like I can be a little prudish. So like the sexuality elements, again, the first time I watched it, I wasn't ready for it. So I was just like, "What in the Brokeback Mountain is going on while I'm watching this?" Like I wasn't ready for that element of it. But you know, this time I could appreciate it a little bit more and like understand the bromance a bit better. But yeah, I I liked it.
Not a fan of the opposite of a women's locker room. The men's just slinging it
Well, yeah,
in the
for me,
bathroom.
it doesn't really matter. Just like if I don't go into it thinking I'm going to see butts and like see people aggressively eating hot dogs, I and churros, and every long thing they can find in the movie and just biting it. I just was like, okay, wasn't ready for any of that. But cool. So I'm sure we'll dive into some of like the very weird undertones and foreshadowing. But I guess we can talk about favorite character if Dino even has one. But
I'll have to think about it. I mean, yeah. The
what about
tennis ball is my favorite character. No, I don't.
what about you, Jason?
Um, Favorite character is Zendaya, man. She just keeps amazing me, like in performance after performance. She's such a good actor. Every time I see her, she's always like very authentic and very real. Like I don't like question her as a tennis player. Like one of the things I was really watching for in this movie, and one thing that I watch for like really in any movie where there's an actor doing a physical thing that like you watch it and you're like, this person either can do the thing or they can't. Like, oh, these actors can't really play basketball. They're no good at it. You know what I mean? Like you can just sort of tell like how seriously they take the physicality of it. And they got enough like I thought they got enough really good shots of Zendaya like playing real tennis in this thing. I'm like, oh, like Zendaya can play tennis. Like I believe it. I believe she could be a tennis superstar. Like, her form is together, the way like, she plays and moves and cuts and the certain like intensity that like only like a really competitive athlete would have. She kind of taps into that very well too. So for me, she was my most favorite character. Um, and I do agree with you, Marina. Like this thing is very much a tennis match. The way it's directed, shot, and written, like it's very much a part of the structure. Um, and she is the ball, and these two guys are volleying back and forth over her and volleying her. And that's how the competition goes or whatever. In this movie, there's like levels, layers of competition. I thought. But yeah, the two characters, the two guys, excuse me, they are very much tennis rackets, and she is the ball in this whole story, and it is intercut kind of like that. Um, yeah, but I would say Zendaya, favorite character.
So am I saying it wrong or are you saying it wrong? What's her name? I thought it was Zendaya.
Oh, it probably is Zendaya. I'm probably saying
Okay.
it wrong.
Okay, that's fine. Anybody else have a favorite character?
All right. I mean, I would agree with Zendaya, Zenny, Zendi. Uh, kind of for all the things Jason said. I mean, her acting chops and all that is great. Going back with the hairstyle. So, older, more mature Zendaya, short hair. Young Zendaya, ponytail. That was it. That's why also it's like just do straight line. But anyway, we're not talking about that anymore. Zendaya knocked it out of the park. Her manipulation skills, all that, she had that in her mind, locked in. The other one though, honorable mention that I would be like, I wanted to see more of this character, maybe even a story. I would watch this person's life story, the judge. I was so intrigued by the judge, the voice, the look. I was like, who is this person? So that's the my answer for that.
Awesome. Um, awesome. And Steve?
Well, I gotta say, the black lady, she's the one that noticed that he was hungry and actually gave him a bite of the Dunkin' Donuts. No, I'm gonna say also Zendaya. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason she produced this. If she would have hopped on this film probably wouldn't haven't seen the daylight. Who knows? I don't think who else could have been casted for this type of role. But she obviously killed it. The film is around her, and I feel the guys are more like supporting characters, even though they're also main characters.
And they have more screen time than her, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
maybe.
like, but they played like she had more like nuance to her role.
She had the
Like,
power. She controlled everything,
no, but also they showed her like, making decisions, being depressed, dealing with the whole kid, like just like showing her having different life situations versus the guys were just being how they were the whole film and being just kind of controlled by her chess pieces. That's how I felt. Particularly.
Yeah. I just
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
And you're mute. You're
Marina,
muted.
Oh, I'm
did you have a favorite character?
back. So for me, if I were to take it off of like I've listened to interviews, like she's done a couple Q&As in LA, and um she dived into sorry my light she dived into like the prep that she did for the movie, for the tennis. Like if I would have done all that first, she would probably be my favorite. But just off of watching it and like liking characters, mine is definitely Patrick. Like I'm being such a girl, like the bad boy that just like is so passionate about his tennis game that he didn't go to college and he followed his dream. Like I definitely, he was definitely my favorite. They all did bad things, right? Like there's no justification in that.
Did they all do bad things though?
I
Poor
mean,
poor little blondie, like just in love with
poor little
Zendaya.
Blondie, when they were dating, trying to break them up, absolutely. He was what? No, he's the most passive. But I think he knows that everything that happened to him was karma because he's just like, did he even love her? Like, or did he just want to win her? Like, we can dive into that, but like, no, they all did bad things. They all did bad things.
Okay, but I really don't
But
care that
out
much
of
about this
everyone,
movie
he's
to
my
get into
favorite.
it.
Out of everyone, he's my favorite because he's the least full of it. You know what I mean? Like, uh, I don't know. They all like were just, the other two were just delusional about their choices. Like they, survival mode, like or just feeling like he was better than him and looking down on him. Like I was so happy when they had that little sauna moment and he was like, "Oh, you don't think she would like someone like me?" And he was like, "Yeah, when we were teenagers." And he had sex with her that same night. I was like, "You should never sleep with someone's wife." But that
No,
felt good.
she brought it up, right? Like he's rich. He comes from like silver spoon. So this idea of like this bad boy, whatever. Look, I'm getting all riled up. I don't care that much about this movie, but I felt Patrick was worse because it's like it's a spoiled brat aspect of it. It's the idea of like you have so much talent, you could care less about like let's say you're so smart you don't even have to study for the exam, right? Because you just are gonna ace it, or you're gonna be able to do enough to where you automatically get an A minus or a B plus just because you're that smart. And it's kind of like, you could be better. And yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's perspective for sure because like yeah, like I do feel like they were trying to sell the difference, but at the same time, I think like he was just one of those like people that like didn't like the politics of like the fact that if he did that path, like yeah, you'll probably keep moving on because you are rich. So I kind of like the fact that he kind of just like dropped it all and went to what he was passionate about. But because Zendaya went to college because like she had to, you know what I mean? Like
no, she didn't.
I mean,
She said
realistically, she did
she
because she was smart. Because if you are not wealthy and you hurt yourself, it is better to have a college education. Like she didn't have that
Oh,
risk.
did they talk about her wealth? Maybe I missed that.
Yes, she's not.
Oh,
She
okay.
was the not wealthy one because she was saying she didn't go to boarding school because her parents couldn't afford it, and then they also even
Okay.
if she got a scholarship. So like she was going because of that. And I think the other guy was going because he wasn't as good. So why also not get a degree in something you could fall
But the
back on?
rich bro stayed. I mean, they talked about they could have all gone right straight into the circuit. Okay, look at this. All right, Zendaya goes, not cheats at least twice, and then comes back home to the hotel with that stank on her, and is like, "Where's my husband? Because I left him here in the bed." Oh wait, he's sleeping with her kid. Is it even his kid, or is that kid Atlanta kid? Because you know how shit went down in Atlanta.
Oh man.
So
Yeah,
I,
that's where I have to agree that the timelines were really confusing because I thought about that too. Because like, yeah, because so first off, when we were in the hotel, and I heard it's a little bit more this time when they run into each other, and she's like Lily, and he's like, "Who's that?" And she says, "Our kid." She doesn't say. I know she was saying her and her husband's kid.
Hmm.
It was kind of weird that she said our kid. I don't know. It just stood out a little bit more this time
Oh,
after
that's
knowing.
So
interesting.
I was reading in plot twist. The kid is actually the referee that was calling the match.
hey,
But I don't
He
know.
was
I
he
feel
was
like
working everybody in that court.
the daughter's a little too old or young, just based on like the visible, based on how
oh,
long ago
we
it
saw the daughter twice, and the daughter wanted to watch Spideyverse. You see that wink,
Yeah,
wink?
yeah.
Not Spider-Man, No Way Home, but
I thought about
you
that
know.
too. Tom Holland was like, "I'm the only white boy around here, actually. Okay, I'm the only. Who cares about these two guys?" Yeah, I do think that that might be Patrick's kid. I just
And
they
then the nerve of her just kind of being like, if you don't win, I'm getting a divorce. I would have been like, bye, Felicia. Or you know what I wanted? I wanted him to win and then be like, here them divorce papers and ciao.
yeah, I think like they intentionally ended
You
it like that.
didn't believe in me enough to just support me in that way.
But I don't know. I might be reading into it too much, but I think that they were all deserved each other because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to get too like deep onto this, like racially and stuff. Like at the end of the day, I feel like she always felt like a possession in their eyes. And like in my personal opinion, she deserved every little crumb she took from the mofos. But I feel like that's just diving in too deep. Like I just don't think I don't know. I just think that they saw her as something to win and you get what you pay for. Like that's how I feel. I feel like it was all karmatic.
I get
I think
that
you're right
until
about that. I think they did, look at her as something to win, but I think that's also within like the context of their general relationship as is. I mean, they're best friends because they're both like, these tennis prospects. And so because they train together and they're also like best friends and spend all this time together at these tourneys and camps and stuff their whole lives, like they both happen to like this girl. They're like both like really intrigued by her, and so like they have to compete for her. You know what I mean? And she kind of, I mean, she puts her out there. She puts herself out there to be competed for as well. So I mean, that's a part of it. It's not comfortable, but all that's kind of what helps build the tension for the rest of the story as well. Because
I also
there's a lot of tension within all the relationships in this thing.
And I also think there are those undertones, and which I kind of read, like I tried to like feel out a little bit more of sexuality and how sometimes like people that are so focused on a goal don't ever really get to get in touch with how they feel. 'Cause I do think she's asexual. Like I do, and I do think like they were struggling with their own stuff, and then yeah, I do feel like it touches a little bit like on fetishing and stuff like
What
that.
do you mean she's asexual?
I don't feel like she was connected to either of them. I don't think she's sexually attracted to anyone. Like
Okay,
she's
I thought asexual meant like you don't want to have sex or you're not attracted to the idea of like sex with men or
yeah,
women or anybody.
I don't think so. I don't think
I think
yeah,
so. So this is what I thought. There's people that just find something that is just like that becomes their identity, their passion. The way that she was describing tennis, like to them when they're like young and take her to the beach and stuff, like she was describing it like poetry, like this is like everything to me essentially.
Yeah,
When
it's her
like
passion for sure.
yeah, so like maybe in her mind was just like since this is everything to me, I have to be also with someone that also plays that well. And when she gets her injury, she's
Sure.
like now, which is when he realized also then later that he goes like, I'm playing for the both of us because she can't play no more.
Mhm.
And she's just like, I want to be with someone that wants to continue to do this because I can't do it.
Right.
And this is the only way I can live through it is by coaching someone that's really good to compete at the level that I was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's an absolute phenom, and she has like this tennis mindset. And you're right. She's an artist about like that her craft, right? And she I think someone who is that high on like their craft, I imagine it probably is sort of hard to date someone who does the same kind of craft as you, but like maybe they're not as good. Like that's
Yeah.
got to be kind of, you know what I mean? Because like it's everything to you. You're like, you're up there. You're a high level, world class athlete. And if someone's not competing on your level, knowing how much effort you're putting in and like what it takes and how much you have to focus on it and how much discipline you have to have, if you see them not there, that's like a little less attractive, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, but to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's asexual. It's just she loves, like more than anything, she loves the game.
So, from what I understand with asexual, and what I've been told is at times the you just completely lose all drive all for sex. Like you're just like kind of just like your sexuality, not that it goes away, but that's that, I've dated someone, or friends have been kind of like, oh, you're asexual, you just don't get turned on in that way, or it can go like completely off and just don't have the sexual drive. So I don't, but it could just be a miss,
So
clearly.
the Google says a sexual identity where a person doesn't feel sexual attraction to others. So it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily like there's levels to it, but I just genuinely feel that she gets more turned on by tennis than she does people, because like even when they were describing it, like when she won that first round that they ever watched her read her play, she like screamed out after she won. She never did that with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like she was just going through the motions. And some people, so there could be like umbrella tears under like being asexual. I'm not saying that like she's not having it, because some people who are asexual still continue to do it just because it's part of like being in a relationship and they understand that it's there. But I feel like she got more of a satisfaction from winning her games than she did with being with men. So it was almost like the perfect compatibility, because like they were kind of struggling on their own too. Because like even like when they were like in the hotel room and she's like watching them, like she never was like turned on visibly. You know what I mean? Like everything was just like, well, this is interesting, like to watch them kiss. Like you should, I'm out, every time, like even when she told him she divorced him and they start making out, like it just stops. Like it just like, yeah, it's just weird. Because I know they were trying to push this thing like she was more sexually attracted to Patrick and stuff, but like even then it was just all such business. Like when they were just in the back of the car, it's just she used it for her advantage, not so much to like get off on, in my opinion, because she wanted him to let her husband win. So you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know, maybe it's different perspective when you guys saw it, but for me it just never seemed like she was like doing it for herself. It was just to like move those chess pieces.
I agree with that, and that I think the whole Patrick thing is the passionate, right? Like him being having high, passion, whereas, like you said, the other dude, the wet towel, is like madly in love with her, as so for her, yeah, it's I mean, the movie's called Challengers, and it's the two challengers for her, right? Plain and simple. And like you said, she gets off on that kind of competition, right? She can't play anymore, so the best she can do is have this almost like, competition
People,
between,
people play for her love. Haha, pun
yeah,
intended.
not even love, just attention, right? That's all it is. Who can hold
You
her
just want
attention longest?
attention. You
Yeah.
don't want my heart.
But the reason why I have such an issue with the and I think maybe why Steve said that it's probably better if it was shorter is, we from the get-go know that she already married this guy and already had a baby. So all the times it goes to the flashback and like Patrick wins the game, or they don't even show him win because this comes back. I'm like, there are no stakes. Like I can enjoy the steak in front of me, you know? And it's not because of cholesterol, it's just because it's dry ass hard steak.
Well, and this is another thing, and this another reason why I say the movie could have been shorter. I noticed like four commercials in the movie. In those scenes, I understand you need to have your product placement because it pays you money and all that stuff. But it just felt like it just got elongated to promote the brand. Like when he got the sandwich thing and he's looking at it, they're promoting Dunkin' Donuts. At one point, he's drinking a Coca Cola at the party. At another time, they're like by the car, which is a Jeep, and they're like by an Applebee's, and there's a big sign that says "See you tomorrow, Applebee's," and there's an Applebee's, and they show the Applebee's there. And those
And you're
scenes,
you're forgetting Apple.
oh yeah, and all that, like to me, like it just felt like those scenes could have been shorter. Also, the whole slow motion stuff with the techno stuff, like I was
You
really
hate
like,
techno is what I'm getting from this.
I don't, man, but it was the same song.
Somebody told me that the composers on this film have done like a lot of that, like that kind of theme. and which I wish I would have known that before, because like I guess like they worked with like a lot of like sexual stuff too. So it's kind of like that would have been more of a giveaway that they like those compositions are used to like get you in the mood for that
But
lucid.
the thing is, it was overused. Like
Yeah,
if it was used for those specific scenes,
yeah.
great. But it was used for tennis. It was used for them like literally doing this with the tennis ball and looking at each other. And I was just like, this is overdone. Like this could have been way shorter.
I forget.
I
Someone
felt that
told
way
me,
about the kid choir songs. And like, did you guys every once in a while they would do like when they were making out, like these kids would be
yeah.
like, oh.
Well, the two guys had different types of music, right? When they're with her. But yeah, the composers are famous. They've done, I forget what they've done, but the director and writer, this is interesting, also did Queer that came out that are both, so it's a weird thing of releasing two movies that are going to go up against each other in award season,
I
right?
think the
Because
composer's also queer too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and then the director also did Call Me by Your Name, Call Me by My Name. What is that? Your name? I don't
By
know.
your name.
Whatever.
By your name.
But it's yeah. So their filmography is up there, and so it's just this. I think is the director and maybe Zendaya, Sandia,
I believe
uh,
it's Zendaya.
Zendaya.
He's gonna beat all of you guys up. All right. Well,
But
Propaganda.
I think
when
this is them like being experimental, if that makes any sense. Like them just kind of, which is great. So I gotta respect that. Like, let's try this. But at a certain point, you also have to be able to, they got right, kill the baby. I don't know if that you guys have heard that term, but it's definitely I think more in like writing and all that that it's just like you gotta be able to kill your baby, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's the acknowledgement of like, all right, how much of this do I need? And I think that was lacking a little bit in a couple of different senses.
well, we've gone into everything that was too much, but in all of it, let's talk about our favorite scenes. I'll start off with my allies. Was Jason.
Damn, I please think I'm still your ally, even though we have differences.
I kid. I kid.
Favorite scene, man. There's actually a lot of scenes because there's a lot going on in this movie, and I was on like torn to different sides of this movie, like where I took certain character sides for a little bit, and it's like, oh, I don't like this manipulation, I don't like this attitude, I don't like, I don't like where this character's headed, and I would turn against them. So I mean, it's really hard. Like I do actually really like the music. I do like that the music is kind of jarring, and what it made me feel was it made me feel like this level of intensity that, like, tennis is this real sort of like upper echelon, mostly reserved for rich people, country clubs, like tennis tournaments, all that stuff's very expensive and kind of inclusive or exclusive. And I just kind of felt like the music, like because it's like such a quiet sort of sport, like such a together sort of like, sport with sponsors like, Mercedes and Audi and Adidas and all these like Wimbledon, these big brands or whatever. They all seem like very elitist stuff. I really like the how like the characters have to have this sense of decorum as they play, but inside they've got this techno music going on. And it's like, to them, it's like they're at peak level, like they're operating within like their peak level zone or whatever. So I kind of liked all that. I kind of liked it being sort of slow. Considering who this director is, maybe these tennis scenes are shot to be like sex. Maybe that is supposed to be like part of the sex of the movie, like the tension of it. Um, I don't know, man. There's a lot. I like. I don't know if there is a particular scene with this one that stands out above any of the others. To be honest with you, um, because the scenes that I like the best are just the ones where there's like a lot of like just the characters acting against one another, like the two characters in the room having a scene. Like when it's usually like two characters. Um, so yeah, nothing in particular. I hate to be like a bummer, but um, I guess the maybe even the tennis match, maybe like even the main tennis match between the two guys. Maybe like that whole sequence in itself, because like the whole movie is really based around the crescendo of the moment, like, and they play that crescendo throughout the whole movie, right? And
Hmm.
usually a movie will have the crescendo at the end, like, and here we go. But this story is so non-linear that like to order to keep the movie up, they sort of they cut the story in a way where it's like, and back to the main point of the movie, and back to like the big sports moment, right? To me, like that's I kind of like that. I kind of like that like intensity. So maybe the through line is my favorite scene, the actual match.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is true because every time we learn something new, it changed your perspective of it. Because like when you first watch it, because as Dino said, they started forward, and with the beginning, when you're first watching it, you think it's this simple scenario where she's rooting for him. And just based on the fact that I saw the previews and know they were friends before, I was like, something's up here. She wants her husband to win. Point blank, period. You don't really think much of it. Like, even to the point that they saw each other the night before. They had sex the night before. You don't even know that, like, until later on. So it definitely makes that scene more intense every time they pan back. So I definitely
Do
feel
you
that.
notice that shot where like it's kind of on her and she's just going back and forth with the audience watching the match or whatever, but she's so poised and so regal, but clearly she's being played for even in that moment. You know what I mean? And she is the ball, just sort of the way they
Yeah.
shot that scene. I was pretty impressed with, it's simple, but it just made a lot of sense with all the tension that was built on both sides of the ball, for
Yeah.
lack of better. Yeah.
I would have hated to be in that background. Golly. Like, dude.
Their necks were sore.
A lawsuit going to happen with my neck.
I need a bump. I need a neck bump. I need a neck bump.
I'm gonna say my favorite scene, so you guys don't take it. I was really surprised,
So you
but
guys
my
don't take it.
kind of along the lines of what Jason was talking about, but I really liked the foreshadow scene. It's just two parts of it. Like when they first started dating, Patrick and Tashi was the character name.
Mhm.
And he was just like, "Oh, have you guys had sex?" And he's like, "Oh, she doesn't want me to talk about it. She'll break up with me." He's like, "We don't got to tell me. Just if you guys had sex, serve like I serve." And in the beginning of the movie, and so he touches the ball right here and blah blah blah. And so in the end, when he tells him that he had sex with her the night before by his serve, I loved that. I was like, wow, this really all came together. Because and he knew, and she didn't really know what that meant, but she knew. She's like, wait, that's how my husband serves, and he doesn't serve like that. What That was a really good like all coming together moment for me.
Mhm.
So I was gonna take that as part of, because I was like, finally something that kind of paid off, and also of the acting chops, the realization there, the three of them, and her losing control. She lost her match, because they, like, when her husband is basically like, I know what he's doing. He's, letting me win, because it even started with that idea of like, can you just let me win, right? My grandma and all this. And then when they meet her and she's kind of like, whoever wins gets my number. And he's like, you're still going to let me win. And he's like, not anymore. So all that actually came back. And so her then realizing, like, oh shit, I just had sex with Broski over there so that he'd let my husband win. My husband now knows, he's like, I'm gonna basically lose the game unless he like plays up again. So that's probably the best part of it. And what was that? That's a total of like 10 minutes. Boom, short movie. Oscar. Um, but what I would say, probably my favorite, like, because it's not the tennis, even though that's where the love language, if you will, is, or what they were trying to do. It's not like I didn't get all that stuff. Uh, Artistically wise, the alleyway scene between her and Patrick and the smoking, and then even Kurt, like, don't, because that felt the most realistic one, you know. Uh, the rest of it was like big tennis propaganda, right? If
Propaganda.
uh, and uh, and so the alley, right? Because they're so, they know each other so well, right? Reminiscent of everywhere, everywhere all at once, everything everywhere all at once. Cause there's a similar one. It's a alley. It's a little noir. It's a little this and that, right? The way it's lit and everything, and how they're getting down to brass tacks, says, right? And then, cause then, right? Here, have my phone number if you decide. She doesn't throw it right away. She then even puts it in her pocket. Like, there's so much right there that's being said, that's being acted about, that I feel like that's, like, just from an acting standpoint, scene work, that's probably the best.
Yeah, and it's definitely ties into like some of your frustrations with the plot and like knowing that they're together and stuff. Like until that point, I didn't really understand what the stakes were. I thought it was very simple. She dated him at one point. He stole him, from him because they had a moment, but like what's going on? So to know that they had another conversation, because she kind of like dismissed him in the hotel lobby when he was trying to like hook up with the girl on Hinge so he could like spend the night with her. Like she kind of was like, stay away from our family. And I was like, dang, well, if that's it, then that's it. Like, but the fact that they had another convo, and again, I think watching it this second time around, which I know you're not gonna do, um, and just understanding like them talking about like emotions and sexuality and things, it also like I don't know, it was a different lens in those moments when they were having those sidebar conversations. Another one, sorry, Steve, for me, was I think I just loved all the foreshadows. I loved, like I said, the tennis ball one, but I also loved, a reason why I brought up too, watching it the second time around and understanding like those notes of like the deeper connections when she first met them and they were asking her why she like had that sigh, that's almost like a scream after she won, and she was just saying like if you're really playing tennis, like you really connect with people, and you like it's almost like better than sex. Like, don't quote me, like she said something like that. So then like also going back to the end of that tennis match when they like embrace after they win, I feel like that came full circle to what she was talking about in the hotel. They finally really played tennis with each other, and like they connected literally and figuratively while they were playing. So, and like she cried more than she cried in her whole relationship, like her tearing up. So yeah, that was another favorite. What about you, Steve? If I didn't take all of them.
Well, all have been taken, so I'm gonna give a bunch of honorable mentions.
No, no, wait. Which of ours did you like the most, Steve? Steve, you gotta choose. Choose one of ours.
Well, it says favorite scene. It doesn't say choose one of your favorite scenes. So while Jason puts his lipstick, I'm going to say that my favorite scene. Some of my favorite scenes were like one dude, not Patrick, not the blondie, the other dude.
Art.
Uh, yeah, he was not giving an F. Like for example, when he was swiping, he was just swiping men, women of all kinds. He just
Wait,
didn't
wait,
care.
wait. That was Patrick.
Oh, that's Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick is the bad boy.
Oh yeah, then I guess the bad boy. And then also when he's like in the date and he's like, "Oh yeah, tennis is boring. Talk about you. Oh, I'm a real estate. I'm a real estate planner." He's like, and then he leaves. He doesn't say anything. He just goes, and then he comes back and just like, "Bleh." And she's like, and at first I really like the choice of like she like stopping him like at first, and then going like, fuck. It's just like, and then the foreshadows, and I'm trying to scramble through scenes that you guys have mentioned. In the foreshadow department of Marina, I will mention the scene of like them when we realized that they were playing together, in two people tennis back in the day, and then they win, and then they climb on each other, and they have this directing choice of landing in missionary position. That's a foreshadow. I knew that was a foreshadow the moment I saw that. I was like, that's a foreshadow right there.
And I love how it escalates though too, because like I was like, okay, I'll never be a guy. I'll never be a sports guy, a guy playing sports with other guys. But I was like, maybe this is normal. But again, between the way that they gave Patrick churros, hot dogs, the whole movie is just like, I just want to bite something.
Honestly, I didn't. I mean, now that you mention it, I do remember like the churros and stuff, but I didn't put that together. But I mean, they're probably gonna do it. You're right. I don't know.
Then
There
he
were
did the
so
banana.
many.
There was a banana. There was the
He did
Oh,
banana. Come on.
banana by himself because Rich. Well, not. I mean, he was rich, but other bro is like sucking on the like packaged protein that like cyclists and people with sponsors have, and then he's just like, "Let me peel this banana and take as big as bites of it as I can."
the
And
innuendos were so intense. And I saw this the first time on a bigger screen and like in the Dolby theater with like we talk about that music. Like I was just like I really like I had to take a step back and really get an artistic perspective because I felt like I was watching a soft, very mild porn like most of the time. Like I was just like what is happening here? Like who said wait banana like it's just like it was so many little things like that like their gazes with each other like when they were in the sauna and just like it was just like so much going on like I like that sauna scene too though in the sense of like them being so, like so grown and like how disconnected like the one guy was from the friendship and how even though this guy is about to sleep with his wife a couple hours later, he was just like so willing to let bygones be bygones and just like he really loves his friend. Like he was just like, I just wanted to say I wanted to have fun. Like I wanted to like I miss playing with you. Just like man, like I don't know if it wasn't genuine or not, but it just felt like the way he looks at him the whole movie is just like he really loved his friend.
Hmm.
if you play the soundtrack backwards while watching it, it just says innuendo, 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 innuendo.
It reminded me of
I'm
what's that movie with Ryan Gosling in the car?
drive.
Drive.
Like yeah, the ding 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 ding.
I'm gonna mention another scene since you mentioned that the like how he looked at him. One scene that was really good for that was like when essentially after he goes like behind his back and goes like, "Oh, he doesn't love you," and stuff, and then he goes to his friend and he figures it out and goes, "Oh, you snake!" Like just that chemistry,
Yeah,
like was amazing on screen.
very true. Because it's like wow, like you really do care about someone when like they're actively being a hater and plotting, and you still are just like I know you, like you know, you're a horrible person, but you're my best friend.
But then clearly Patrick also had a girlfriend when he was getting up in Zendaya. And then, and yeah, you could say that Garfunkel was being like, he's got snitching, right? Snitching on your boy. But, like he's got a boyfriend, I mean, a girlfriend. So, I mean, yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, let me get with the guy that already supposedly has a girlfriend,
Oh,
even
the
though he
beginning, I'm like, when
doesn't.
do you have a girlfriend? Like, oh, when they were in the hotel room.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they all sucked. No, I'm kidding. No. But no, I still enjoyed for what it was about two rich white guys fall in love with this brown skinned thing that they didn't even see coming. You know what I mean? Like it like that's exactly it's just what it was, and it's just like I think it heightened the intensity because let's be real, like tennis is like it's a rich people sport. It costs a lot of money to be able to train, be able to do those like tournaments and stuff like that. So it was like I don't know, I felt like a fly on a wall and like a very like wealthy love triangle that I just that I probably would never really encounter. But yeah. All right.
I would second that, the fly on the wall sentiment before we get out of here. That's what I felt like too. I mean, because I don't know anything about the world of tennis for real. But you kind of imagine just like being a sports fan what it's like, but always kind of like when you step on the other side of like prestige, you know what I mean? Like of like this, multi-million dollar international athlete. I feel like this movie kind of handled that stuff pretty good. Like I believed it. Like I believed that these people were celebrities in their world. You know what I mean? Like these were tennis stars. And then there's like a love triangle within like the tennis star world because every once in a while, like there is sports scandal where there's like weird love triangles and what have you. But like to see this one sort of like what's the word? Just presented to us in a way where like you almost could have told this story maybe in a different with a different sport or whatever, but I just really like tennis as being the direct backdrop for this thing. And I feel like everybody who made the movie was on board with making this thing feel authentic to the audience, like the tennis aspect of it.
For sure. Yep. That's exactly how I feel. Like I loved it, but I still don't know it. Like yeah, if it was basketball or football, I feel like we get a little bit more. I don't like we see them on social media. Like it's a little bit more. It's been done. So it was very unique on that end. But awesome. All right. Well, let's dive into final thoughts. Um, Switch it up and start with Dino.
Well, again, for the great acting, the direction, the music, like it should be like an A plus for me. But it's one of those movies again where I feel like there's another movie that does the same thing but does it better. Y tu mamá también. Instead of a tennis match, it's a road trip. It's two buddies. It's a girl. It's a actually a woman because they're young and she's like uh older, but they're yeah, it's like go watch Y tu mamá también instead of watching this. I've already not recommended. My cousin's wife used to play tennis or whatever, and she was like, "Yeah, I was kind of interested." I was like, "Well, don't watch it." I've already been like, "It's not worth it." It's like, go watch something else. Like, it's just aggravating that so much of everything, like you were saying, foreshadowing. It can't be foreshadowing if we already saw the end of it. Like, it's not foreshadowing to do a flashback to try and foreshadowing something that we already know happens or ends a certain way. It's yeah, oh man, Sasquatch, then this. What's next? Havoc 2, the Havocing? I don't know, guys. Like, I'm on a funk with these movies, so let's get it together, because yowzers.
To be
Oh,
very, 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 very clear, all right? This was way better than watching a Sasquatch touch herself in a forest. All right. I,
I know. Oh,
all right.
you know what I was actually hoping. I was like, for whenever this comes out, there's like high winds warning through just during our things. I got another message saying the power is gonna be turned off. I was like, oh man, please turn off the power and internet right now. Like I would be fine with just giving my initial thoughts, and then my power goes out, and I can text you guys and be like, sorry, no power. See you guys next week. But here
Yeah.
I am.
Speaking of the weather, I rewatched today because I had watched it a few weeks ago in the theater, but and it was windy outside when they were having like that wind makeout session. So, anyways, but all right. So, Steve, what is your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. I think Dino, because his cue's older, this movie's not for you, my guy. And this movie is for all them Zendaya fans from Euphoria and all that, because those are the people following her. So like those are more younger people. And yeah, and that's why there was a lot of techno here. I think the techno was excessive, in my opinion. If they had slightly better score, or at least better placement of score, I would recommend this movie quite a lot, because at least storyline wise, I thought it was rich and it keeps you intrigued and stuff. I still think the movie was a little too long, in my opinion. Uh, but would I watch it again? Very difficult. But I would watch. but, uh, but I will watch it with maybe some of them slow motion music scenes on mute, and put in my own score. Perhaps Beethoven or even Red Hot Chili Peppers might sound even better. But yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Real quick, Steve. I guess I'm old enough to where the techno, I'm like, yeah, techno, way to go, takes me back to my youth.
Bro, it was the same song
Hey, that's what techno is.
70 times. The same, literally this. I heard it on my headphone.
Yeah,
Reggaeton is the same song. So I mean, yeah, techno is the same song.
Jason, you ready to
Comment down below if you think techno is the same song.
So yeah, I still really like this thing. Um, when I think about it, for me this year, this is a top 10 picture this year for me. I really like this as a film.
Whoop,
But I revisit it. Yeah, I'll watch this thing again for sure. Probably sooner than later because like award season and whatnot. I didn't. Again, when I first saw this movie, like I didn't really expect very much, and I didn't feel like it was for somebody like in my generation. Like, oh, this is like a younger person's movie. This is like people who enjoy Zendaya and like Steve said, her TV show Euphoria. This is more of like that teenage to early 20s audience. Like they're the ones who are really going to be into this. But for me, it's just as good as any love triangle movie I've seen. So top 10 for the year. And just off the top of my head, I would say this is a top 20 all-time sports film for me. Um, let's see, who would I recommend it to? I would recommend it to that demographic that I just mentioned, who probably are more into like Zendaya movies and young adult movies. And I think this movie very much is a movie that sort of speaks to its times. I feel like young people of this generation who this movie's geared toward are really going to get like the dynamics and love triangles because we see one of these type of movies, a few of them every generation. But this thing, does center around like teenagers, so it's going to pull teenagers in, and like it goes all the way probably to their like I guess late 20s, early 30s or something like that, right? Because he's like getting ready to like call it quits. So I guess they're like this thing probably takes it takes place over like a 15-year period or something like that, right? 13 to 15
He,
years.
yeah,
So
yeah. Whoa. He's 31. He's talking about next year he's going to be 31 or something like that, and doesn't want to keep playing to 40. And then I was doing the math of what college age, and if you're going pro, and if you're just starting college, you're going to be 18. They said 13 was the first flashback, so 13 plus 18, boom, there you go. But yeah.
yeah. So I think that's like all those age ranges are the people who this movie's really geared toward, but really top-notch filmmaking. I had no clue. I didn't even bother to look up who the director was. But then when I like saw all the things he directed, I've liked a lot of his movies. I
Yeah.
like most of his work. So I think he did something that's kind of fresh for a sports movie. Sometimes sports movies can get pretty dull. It's only so many ways you can make the big game sort of happen. Um, but there's always room for like certain you know newer sort of sports movies where there's not a ton of tennis movies. You know what I mean? And sports movies sometimes, like I said, sometimes they can just be kind of like dull to me because we've seen it so many times. But I think if I had to line up my top 20, this would definitely be in it. Yeah, I guess those are my final thoughts on the film. Yeah, go Zendaya, girl. You go, girl.
Awesome. Thank you. That was very refreshing. In a room full of no's, you just need one yes, as my lady Gaga said. um, so yeah, final thoughts. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed speaking about it with others because like a lot of thoughts went through my head. This is a very interesting film because like it was kind of touched on like we're getting older and it's so weird to me that like a movie with flashbacks and flash forwards is like people my age. And so I think if there was one thing I could say about a movie with this timeline, maybe it was done a little too soon because it was kind of weird. Like I felt like I was going through my own like timelines back and forth, choices we made, people we broke up with, blah blah blah. So it was just very interesting that these movies about adults are like our age now and like not our parents' age. So kind of I think I felt like I went through a lot with this, like just like the sexuality of it, like the classism, there's just so many tiers. So I really enjoyed it. I feel like it was a unique experience. I'll look into the movie Dino was talking about with them in the car, but to me this was like a pretty like original concept for me. um I liked it the first time. Like I said, the first time I watched it, it was just a little weirded out by like the sexual notes because I just wasn't expecting them. But this time around, I definitely really appreciated it. Like every aspect of it. And recommendation wise, I don't know, like just like if I'm talking to people, we're talking about like plot twists and like if you like tennis. So if Dino's cousins out there, watch it. Don't listen to him. Um, it's something to feel like if you're ever into sports and you've ever had like it's a good love story about people playing sports. So I don't know who specifically I recommend it to, but like if I'm ever chit chatting with people about like kind of like that theme of like thriller, I don't know, not really thriller, but just like intense. People who like intensity, people who like techno. But I would recommend it to them. Watching it again, this is my second time. I mean, if it comes on TV, maybe I think it's like a good like people come over. Let's just put a movie on, drink some wine, kind of.
Jesus.
I think it's one of those movies that it could just play, while you're hanging out. But yeah, I liked it. I do wish we would have had another female perspective, but it's cool. I had my boys tonight, as Zendaya would say. But yeah, thank you guys.
All right, awesome. Just a few technical notes before we get out of here. On Challengers, on a $55 million budget, grossed 96 million worldwide.
Hmm.
And just as of just a night ago during the Golden Globes, for all the heat that this movie took for the score, it actually won Best Original Score.
Yep.
So just
Only
a
only one
few
person was
housekeeping
given.
notes.
Only one person was given heat to the score.
Oh, that's cool. They won something. I'm glad they did because this movie came out like April 2024. And I got invited to go to that like screener of it. And I'm like, oh, this is smart. Like they're like, don't forget about us. Cause like I think everybody forgot about.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
this movie came out back in the spring, but yeah, it did get a lot of nomination buzz for like individual awards and whatnot, but it did win for Best Original Score.
But so
So
did Weir. So it's weird.
that's right, that's right.
They
Two
could have
movies in one
canceled
year.
each other votes,
A very busy year for this director, Justin. Yeah, whatever his
And the
name.
screenwriter, same screenwriter. So there you
Oh,
have
same
it.
screenwriter as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the last question I have is Steve. What do you got for us next week?
Next week, I don't even know why you asked me when you know that you are next for
Oh,
Cinema Club.
oh, it's for me. I'm next. Okay, great. Well, we're going to jump into a world that I'm not totally familiar with. From director Wong Kar Wai. In the Mood for Love. It's been on my list for a long time. So for next week, this is what we're going to knock out.
Okay.
Is the South Asian Pacific Titanic. For Jason Eccles, Marina, El Dondino, me, Steve Destiny. We'll catch you next week. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Bye bye.